Today's live stream is brought to you by Cybrary.it. If you're looking for IT training, more specifically geared towards cybersecurity, make sure you guys check out the link in the description below for Cybrary.it. Use the coupon code ITCQ50 and you save 50% off of your premium membership. Yo, what's up, YouTube? How is everyone doing today? I'm super stoked about today for one kind of big reason. Today, we should be hitting a 100,000 subscribers, which it's a pretty big deal as far as YouTube goes. At least that's what everybody tells me. So that's exciting. I'm excited about that. I hope you guys are too. Hello to everybody in the chat. Hope you're all doing wonderful today. So I want to do something just a little bit different today. This is a series, if you will, that I'll be working on. And may actually end up more along the lines of a course, and I'm excited about it. It's going to be a lot of work, but at the end of the day, I'm super pumped to help you guys out and give you guys as much information about just basics of getting in, or basics of IT, right? Like things that you would need to know as you're stepping into the field. And it's not, we're not necessarily covering things at a high level here, because this is IT career questions. We're helping you guys as you're transitioning into IT. So with that being said, today, oh yeah, here you go. Let me talk about today first before I do that. My bad. Today we're talking. Let me fix this. I'm sorry, my bad. We're going to be doing some command prompt. So IT basics with the command prompt. We're going to start off with ipconfig, which is, super easy, right? It's super basic part of IT. And again, you might see this in a course. So we're just kind of doing this live because I just want to test it out, right? So if you guys don't know, I have this course that I just released 4 weeks ago, called How to Get an Entry-Level Job in IT. Chapter by chapter, walks you guys through the things that you would need to know that can give you an advantage to getting an IT job, getting your first IT job. So there's a lot of pro tips in there on things that you could really use to help you, right? And it just kind of walks you guys through this whole process. And there's nothing really out there like that before, that's been seen like this before, really. So I would suggest you guys check out the video that I posted. It'll give you a little bit more information than I can give you right now, because I'm not really talking about, I don't really want to get into this super much, a lot right now, because I want to talk to you guys about the command prompt, because this is fun stuff. So all right. And also today, yes, let's get 100,000 subscribers, because that would be super dope. That'd be super, super awesome. Gotta fix this. I'm gonna have to do a lot of screen adjustments here. As you guys can see, I have two windows pulled up. We have a server 2019 and we have server 2016 up and running through VirtualBox. So I virtualized these operating systems. It's something that anybody out there can really do. You don't necessarily need a super powerful computer to virtualize other operating systems. Your RAM is going to be the biggest thing that really holds you back. So I have a couple videos where I talk you guys through setting up VirtualBox, setting up virtual machines, talking about different versions of server and things like that. I got flies in my garage here. It sucks. So you guys can do this from your own computer, right? You can virtualize any operating system that we're going to be talking about. You guys can go through the command prompt on your own Windows-based computer as well, and kind of follow along with what we're doing. Some of what I'm going to talk about today, you may already know, but this is more along the lines to help people who don't know, who just need a little bit more, familiarization. Just needs to be more familiarized with this, right? So let me pull up my book, my little cheat sheet here on things that I'm going to be doing. The first thing that we want to do, anytime we are talking about ipconfig or whatnot, we're going to have to open up command prompt. Now the command prompt, you can do like a Windows key R, which will open up a run window, and then you can just type in CMD, which you already have that open there, and hit enter. Great, easy way to get the command prompt open. I'm going to open this up in my other terminal here as well. So now we got command prompt open on both of these virtual machines. We are going to focus right now on the screen on the right. I should probably maximize that or something, but let me know if it's easy for you guys to see. Yeah, we're only talking about Windows today, so we're not talking about anything else. Just Windows. So what we have here with the command prompt. First, like if you guys don't know what the command prompt, you kind of have to understand what the command prompt is, what it'll do for you. The command prompt's been something that's been built into Windows for, I mean, honestly, what seems like forever. I got the stupid fly, sorry. It's been around really, I mean, a long time. Command prompt is really a command line interpreter, which is built off command, which is really from early DOS and Windows 9X machines. So again, it's really old. that should just tell you right there that, hey, it's pretty old. But what does it mean for you, right? The command prompt will help you talk and communicate and work with some of the inner workings of the Windows operating system. So it really helps kind of in a much easier way interpret some of the inner workings of your operating system. So you don't necessarily need to be a programmer by any means and understand how the operating system was designed, how it was developed. The command line just gives you a way to talk directly to some of the different functions and applications even within the operating system. A lot of what you could do in the command prompt, you could actually do through like the GUI. Some of the things you can do through the GUI. A lot of things you can't. It's not necessarily that you can't. It's maybe a little bit more difficult, but yeah, a lot of things you kind of can. We're not talking about PowerShell today, and I want to bring up PowerShell only because you don't often. You always hear about PowerShell. Like PowerShell is like the big thing within Windows environments. Almost like everything that you can do in a command prompt, you could do in PowerShell. But still to this day, like network administrators, system admins, people who are working kind of frontline support will always tend to have a command prompt open. There's many reasons for that, but it's important to know that it's still being used. There's still many commands from it that, it's just not necessarily you don't want to have multiple PowerShell windows open. It's just maybe easy to organize by having different command prompt windows open, doing different things. We'll eventually start talking about like ping, NS lookup. We'll start talking about running programs through the command prompt, installing programs through the command prompt. There's a lot could be done with it. So today we're talking just ipconfig, kind of getting familiar with on a day-to-day what would you do in the command prompt if you are working in IT. So again, whether you're help desk, SOC analyst, network engineer, you'll probably most likely have a command prompt open running different things. Just going through my list here. So this video is just really covering maybe one of the most basic things that you would use in the command prompt, something that you would want to use or be aware of as you are getting into different environments. Let's head over to the Server 2016 window and we'll start talking about different commands. So we'll talk about ipconfig. If we are in the command prompt, we type ipconfig, hit enter. We're going to get information about this specific system's IP configuration. There we go, ipconfig. So the information that we have here is we have our link local Ipv4 address, which in the future we'll be using Ipv6. It's being used somewhat now, but we'll see a lot more of that being used. We're not going to focus on that. Ipv4 address. That is important. That Ipv4 address is essentially your computer's network address. Like that is what one way that your computer is communicating with your existing network. It's being assigned an IP address, and that IP address basically is, that's like your home address, if you will. If you take it like your well, I guess I can't really say it's your home address because that's more along the lines of like your MAC address, but we'll talk about that anyway. Again, this is like a trial run here, so forgive me if I goof up or say something that I necessarily shouldn't. You guys can correct me anytime you want. It's all about learning. But anyway, IP address. We have your subnet mask 255.255.0.0. We have your default gateway 10.0.2.1. What is important to know about this? There's a few things. We're just talking about ipconfig right now. We'll talk about an addition to ipconfig here in a minute. What this does for you, if you're stepping foot into an environment, it's giving your IP addressing scheme. It's giving you an idea of how your network is set up. Because as you go from environment to environment, your IP address is going to be different. Your Ipv4 address could be different. Your subnet mask could be different. Your default gateway can be different. Every computer has its own unique IP address assigned to it. When you're in an environment, your subnet mask typically could be the same across different computers. Same with the default gateway. It could be the same across multiple computers. But the IP address is always going to be different. So one thing that this does for us is when we do an IP config, again, tell us how our networking scheme is set up, which is really important information as you're getting into troubleshooting. Subnet mask and default gateway, we're not going to necessarily focus on right now, but let me read here real quick what I wrote up all these different notes. So yeah, I put in here, in a business environment, you may be visiting your end users in their local offices or offices on the other side of town, may even remote into their computers from your office to help troubleshoot issues. Location is very important when understanding IP addressing and schemes, as the information from computer to computer can vary based on where they are actually located. So kind of talked about that already. Some of the issues that could arise from needing to utilize ipconfig is with devices, computers not being able to communicate properly with each other because they are set up across different networking schemes, VLANs, or other filtering. It's also important to understand the IP schemes to help further assist in troubleshooting network and networking connectivity issues within your environment. Your network administrator might have policies put into place based on locations, access points, or other means of access controls. So what this means is, based on your location, so you could be in an office, and you could be in your IT department, and 2 doors down is your sales department. They could have a completely different IP scheme set up within that part of the office. Let's see. And just to do a comparison here, we're going to go to our server 2019 machine. You can see here, I think I goofed something up on this machine, maybe because the license is expired. Yeah, it's kind of jacked up. But anyway, you can see that the IP address is different on this machine compared to our server 2016 machine. So again, that's just noting like, hey, different computers have different IP addresses. It has the same subnet. We'll do the IP config all next. So again, what this is giving you is just information about current IP address schemes, configuration. It's just important information to kind of know and understand as you're kind of getting into troubleshooting, right? So let's talk about ipconfig /all. So if we are in the command prompt, we type in ipconfig /all, hit enter. This is going to give us more information about our current computer's IP configuration, network configuration, things like that. It gives us more information. It'll tell us our host name, our DNS. It's also going to give us our physical address, which is our MAC address. It's letting us know if Dhcp is enabled or not. It also gives us our DNS server IP address that we're using. within the system. Again, this is important information just to kind of be aware of. Your MAC address is, again, unique to your computer, and this could be utilized maybe when you're re-imaging computers. That's often when I've seen MAC addresses being used. There's also MAC address filtering. You can utilize that if you want to filter some traffic based on a computer's MAC address. DNS server is also important to know. We'll talk about this, but let's talk about DHCP real quick, because this is something that you could run into troubleshooting, right? So whether it's enabled or not, when you're troubleshooting across LAN, WAN, other connectivity issues, some environments will have DHCP, which stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, and that could be enabled, it could be disabled. But when it's enabled, it means that your system network administrators are assigning your computer an available IP address when establishing your connection to the network. Every time your computer establishes a connection, it talks to the DHCP server, and the DHCP server will assign an available IP address. Meaning, you could be in an environment, and you could have multiple computers within this environment. Say you have 100 computers in this environment, and you have 254 available IP addresses that could be assigned, within a subnet, within an IP class range, right? Anytime you maybe restart your computer, log into the network there, your computer is talking to the DHCP server, which then looks for an available IP address and then assigns it to that computer. If DHCP is not enabled, this means that your administrators assign computers static IP addresses, which mean they set an IP address that does not change. So every time you restart the computer, your IP address is exactly the same. And you typically see DHCP not enabled on a system when it's a server, because many times your servers are communicating across many applications, across many other devices. If you were to not set a static IP on a server, if you were to reboot that server, you could run across issues like connectivity issues with different applications talking to that server. You have like maybe DNS issues where the name of the server is not resolving to the correct IP address, which can cause issues, again, with connectivity and things like that. If you're in an environment that utilizes naming conventions for hosts, that's where we talk about with the DNS kind of having issues. And we talked about host. Our host name is Eastern Kingdoms, so that is the name of the computer. You'll see many times across enterprise business environments, you have a naming convention set up across all of your computers, across all of your servers. You have some types of naming convention set up in place. So you'll see, like, oftentimes, like, different remote software, you can utilize a computer's name excuse me, to connect to that computer, because that name resolves to essentially the IP address of that computer. So if you, I should go back. I'll kind of skip that right now. But anyway, talking about the information that you find in here. Let's see. The ipconfig command in the command prompt is one of the most widely used, as it helps fill in information you may not normally have available any other way. Meaning you may not have a direct listing of all of your computer's names and IP addresses and the way your network scheme is set up within your environment. You might not have that readily available to you at all times. So you can generally use the ipconfig command in real time, so the information delivered to you should be accurate. And I have a troubleshooting thing here. However, we can try to go over it, I guess. We'll talk about this, like the scenario, to kind of bring in a little bit more about ipconfig. So let's say, for instance, we have two computers in a lab. They're in the same lab. They're even next to each other, right? They've always been able to communicate with each other with no problems. These computers are able to access, the internet with typically every day without a problem. But today, however, they are unable to communicate with each other. One of them can't even access the internet at all. So this is a troubleshooting issue you get. You get a call or you get a ticket put into place saying, hey, can't access the internet on one of these computers. I can't communicate with the other computer. I can't, share files with it or anything like that. I was able to do it yesterday, but today I can't. So typically you would do some of your typical checks, making sure the Ethernet adapter is working properly. You can disable it, renable the Ethernet adapter, see if that fixes any connectivity issues. Verify that there's a blinking light within the Ethernet adapter, cables are in good conditions. That's like a quick kind of step, like, okay, let's see where these connectivity issues lie. And then you can kind of go to the next step. So you verified cables are working, lights blinking, disable the Ethernet adapter, re-enable it. You even restarted the computer, right? And it still doesn't work. So what you could do is once you get to the computer that's not working, you're verifying, again, just information. One thing that you would do, and this is typical, the typical kind of step that I would take if I was troubleshooting. I would go through the processes that we talked about, but then once I get to the computer that's not working, I would run an ipconfig, and I typically do ipconfig/all, and I'd get information on it. Now, in this case, in this instance, this server 2016 virtual machine that we have running is working properly, and there's no issues with it. It's working the way that it should be. It's able to access the internet. I look at the IP addressing scheme that's set up here, the 10.0.2.3. That is the way that our current network is set up. We can go to other computers in this lab, and they would all have very similar information. They would all have, obviously, a different IP address, but we know that for our IP addressing scheme within our environment, that it starts with 10.0.something.something. And when we go to the computer that's not working, we do the ipconfig/all. We could see here that our IP address is different. It's 169.254.158.9. I don't think we enabled DHCP. So now we can also see, so first of all, we see the IP address on the computer that's not working. And it doesn't match what our other computer's IP addresses. It doesn't fall in line with that range. So that's immediately a red flag right there. Excuse me. The next thing that we see, if we go to the computer that's working, we have DHCP as enabled. Okay, that's great. Or DHCP is not enabled, sorry. That's how it should be. So we go back to the computer, again, that's not working. DHCP is enabled. So what you could run across here is an issue where you have a specific IP address controls set in place where if it's, obviously with this one, the IP address doesn't match our other IP address, right? It's not in that same class at all. It's completely out of range. So what we could then kind of do is disable DHCP on this specific computer and assign it an IP address, and then it would work. Now and it should work, right? Now to kind of reverse this, many times on desktop computers within an environment, you have DHCP enabled. It's typically enabled across the board on your desktop computers because your servers are assigning IP addresses. More along the lines of the scenario, what you would probably see is that somebody disabled DHCP and they tried to assign a computer an IP address. And that's when you would kind of run into connectivity issues as well. I apologize because I didn't have this scenario set in place right. So I'm just more or less talking about how that scenario works instead of kind of walking you through it. So that's my fault, and I apologize for that. But I just want to kind of give you guys an idea of what you would maybe run across when you're troubleshooting some type of issue, right? You're checking IP addresses. You run ipconfig to check the IP address schemes and things like that. And it gives you a lot of information about, specifics that can help you troubleshoot. I'm going to re-record this entire video in a more edited way, have everything prepared. But I really just kind of wanted to walk through this in a live stream, see how it felt to me. And I know that, I feel like I messed up a few things, but overall I feel good. Like if I actually re-record this video, put the proper steps into place that needed to be set up, I think it would probably go okay. I left out a few things, but overall I think I can kind of go back and I think I can go back and make this video a lot better. I think I can. So anyway, this is kind of what I wanted to just run through real quick in today's stream. Ipconfig. It's one of the most used commands in a command prompt in a Windows environment. So it definitely helps you get a lot of information, especially when troubleshooting. That's kind of what I wanted to hit. A lot of the videos that I'm going to be making where we'll go through these types of walkthroughs are going to be helping you troubleshoot. How do you troubleshoot in an enterprise Windows environment? So this is something that, again, you would utilize if you are trying to troubleshoot connectivity issues. So let's check the chat. John, if two computers has different IP addresses, how to correct the IP address? Well, the computers should always have different IP addresses. Every computer should have its own unique IP address. There are times within an environment where maybe there's a hiccup within DHCP. Something happens where two computers somehow get assigned the same IP address. I think that almost never happens, but what would typically happen is somebody tries to manually assign an IP address and another computer is already using that. You'd get notifications on that. Typically, you get some type of window pops up, says, "Hey, there's a computer on your network using this IP address," something along those lines. It's been a while since I've seen that one. But yeah, every IP address typically should be different from one another. Same with MAC addresses. We talked about that. MAC addresses are unique to the physical computer itself. 99 subs to go. What's up? We are getting so close. So crazy. So crazy, y'all. I can't believe we'll be hitting 100,000 subscribers. It's intense. What's going on, Grant Collins? So anyway, if you guys watch this, if you guys have been staying here throughout this whole video, did what I talk about make sense? Or what part of what I talked about didn't quite make sense? Because again, I want to re-record this, and it's not going to be live. It'll actually be a more polished video. But when I re-record this, I want to make sure what we're doing makes sense. And if that means, we have to help break down more of the troubleshooting scenario, we can do that too. But what I'm trying to do here for everybody is just, I want everybody to be successful as they're getting into IT. I want everybody to kind of have the resources, the knowledge that will help them as they step foot into their job on the first day. And so a lot of what we're going to do with this series or course is highlight many of the different troubleshooting scenarios that you would see on a day-to-day basis. So, we'll even talk about resetting passwords, how you do that, right? Because not everybody knows how to do that. And it's one of the resetting passwords is something that you do on a daily basis when you step foot into an IT environment. I guarantee you, much of your day would probably be, not much of your day, a lot of it will be resetting passwords. Continuing on to the command prompt series, we will be talking about ping, because ping is so extremely important. We will be talking about traceroute, talk about other ways to, installing programs through command prompt, creating batch files to help automate different processes. So we can create a batch file and use our task scheduler to run that specific task and have the information saved. We'll talk about that. That's a cool process that you can go through. That's something that I always like to utilize. And then of course, we'll just hit many other things within the command prompt that you should just be aware of. And then once we kind of go through command prompt, we'll start moving into PowerShell. Because PowerShell, oh man, PowerShell can be lots of fun. Let's see here, PowerShell. And let's kind of talk about. Oh, I forgot I set that up on this. There we go. All right. Yeah. So PowerShell, I think just about every single thing that you can do in a command prompt, you can do in PowerShell. PowerShell has a lot more commands to it. Um, PowerShell is something that you will utilize more in administrator types of roles. I mean, you can also create like Active Directory accounts through PowerShell. You can mass create Active Directory accounts in PowerShell, which is amazing. You can reset passwords through PowerShell. But just to kind of talk about as far as like how things work between command prompt and PowerShell, ipconfig. If we do ipconfig in PowerShell, we're going to get the same information that we would have via the command prompt, right? Same type of same information, but why wouldn't you just have a PowerShell window open all the time compared to a command prompt? I always had both open, and when I was working in IT, always had multiple command prompts open. And just to talk about like in this live stream, because we're not obviously going to utilize this video for anything else. Ping is going to be one of the next biggest commands. It's probably the most popular command, I would think, to when you're utilizing command prompt or trying to troubleshoot things. We can ping different things, and pinging is essentially sending different I don't want to say it's sending a signal, if you will. I'm trying to simplify things, right? To a specific address. So you can ping a specific IP address. You could ping a specific URL. So you can do like ping. I don't think this. Yeah, this one's not hooked up to the internet. My bad. This one is ping. Oh, I have to change my my VirtualBox stuff. That's my bad. So let me open up this window. Open up a command prompt from my computer. Ping www.google.com. And one thing about this, like when you ping names or URLs, it will come back with an IP address, which is, again, very important information. But one thing that you would utilize with ping, say we're going to go through a troubleshooting scenario right now. User calls you and says they can't access the internet, can't access network shares, or they just can't access network shares. Let's go with that scenario. I'm sorry. You get a call from a user, they can't access network shares. So that's different shared drives within your network. And that's kind of all the information they give you. You ask them for their computer name, and you could ping their computer name. Now, I don't have any other computers on the network at the moment, I'm thinking. I could ping through this one. So we could do ping AMD. It's going to come back with our IPv6 address, but you could ping any computer name, whatever that computer name would be, right? And it should come back with information. We're just going to ping google.com again. Should come back with IP information, saying, and which is then it's essentially telling you like, hey, this computer is online, it's active. You've sent information to that computer. It's sending information back. There's connectivity there. If you weren't able to ping it, so if you did like a ping, and we did ping computer, just using that as an example. You might run across this. You might run across an error like that. Ping request could not find host computer. Please check the name and try again. You might run across where you're pinging something and it's not always replying back with information, meaning that there's some type of connectivity issue there where it's dropping packets. Kind of lost where I was going because the wife is trying to call me. But, gosh, I forgot now. I don't know. Like I said, I just kind of wanted to walk through different troubleshooting scenarios. talk about some of the basics. Yeah, we can talk about, if we do this, ping google.com -t. This is going to send an endless amount of pings to google.com. It will just keep going until you tell it to stop. This is important when you're troubleshooting connectivity issues. Say, for instance, a user calls you and says, hey, every 5 minutes my computer can't access the internet, or internet seems to be going in and out. I keep getting prompted to connect to a shared drive over and over again, and whatever, just an example. You could ping that computer and do a -t. It will continuously ping that computer, give you this information. You should continuously get replies from it. Occasionally, you might get it where it drops. So I doubt Google will drop anything. So let's do itcareerquestions.com. Maybe we'll get a drop from it. Who knows? I'd really like to be able to show you guys that. We'll see. I don't think it's going to. But what you would see is that you wouldn't necessarily get the same type of reply back. You're going to get what does it say? I can't think of exactly what it says when it doesn't get the information, but just a way to troubleshoot connectivity. Is this computer continuously connected, or is this computer connected to the internet? Is it working properly? Is it really having connectivity issues where it's dropping every 5 minutes or so? Running a ping -t will help kind of understand how that works. Yes, ping does use ICMP. But anyway, we'll talk about this. We're going to talk about ping in further videos. These are going to be, I'm going to try to make them as detailed as possible. As you guys can kind of see from my OneNote, like this is everything that I had. It's probably hard to see because I got all these windows opened. But this was kind of like what I wrote out for this video. Just trying to, I don't know, just really break things down for us so we have a good understanding. That's all. I'm just trying different things on this channel just to make people happy, give people the information that they want and need. That's all. You guys have any questions for me? You guys want to talk about anything specific? I really want to hit 100,000 subscribers today because that would be really solid. Be super solid. I have a meeting in 15 minutes, so I don't have much time. I'll probably just end the chat because I do have to get ready for that. But thank you guys for joining the live stream. I do appreciate you guys. Why do people keep calling? I do appreciate you guys joining, talking with me, hanging out. I'm not going to share this note with you guys because it still needs work. Thank you, IT Career Skills, bro. Appreciate you. It's awesome. So let me call the wife back, get ready for my meeting. That's it. That's all I got for you guys right now. Let's hit 100,000 subscribers today. If I hit it today, if I hit it before like midnight tonight, I will probably live stream. Or as I start getting really close to 100,000 subscribers, I'll probably do a live stream. But anyway, that's all for today. Thank you guys for joining, and